someone. Who's it kicked out today? It's kicked out Scrivo. Isn't that exciting?
Absolutely.
I don't have an image for myself currently. That's great.
That's fine. You don't need one. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching us from. This is that 6+++ show. That's right. There's one too many pluses. I didn't come up with it. Don't blame me. We are here today to give you some of the hottest takes from the hottest boys about the new primary, deployment, and secondary missions in some sort of order. Joined, as always, I am by Chris, our dearest leader. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've just recorded another podcast.
Yep.
I'm feeling fresh. I've only recorded 2 things today, so it's been a light day for me.
Hope you're not slacking.
Yeah, well, I pretty much am. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fit some other stuff in. I rearranged a call with my mother.
Wow.
It's like I haven't talked to her a while. It'd be nice to have a chat. And we've rearranged it to tomorrow lunch instead of tomorrow afternoon because I've got stuff to record. But the important thing is I'm still talking to her.
That is true.
Yeah. How have you been in the hobby? Have you been up to much?
Still no. But I did play at the weekend. We had a little team tournament.
That counts.
That we attended. So yeah, we've done some playing, just no painting. But I'll get back on that hobby horse at some point soon, I'm sure.
Well, you've been busy, so do you want to give us just a very, very quick run through? It's not what we're here for overall, but I think you had an all right weekend with the playing, didn't you?
Yeah, I probably can fit it into about 30 minutes. So yeah, we the 2 Jamies and Dave signed up to do a 3-man team event quite a while ago, and then Dave decided to do Warhammer World instead, and what a loser, as we'll find out later. But yeah, so I got asked to fill in. So yeah, we went along. It's supposed to be 8 teams. There's only 7 in the end. I was on Grey Knights. Jamie Clifford was on World Eaters, and Jamie East was on Votan. I'd say like you had a few of the teams there were kind of people who were just getting into tournament play, and then there were 2 other teams that had experienced tournament players. But yeah, we won our first 2 games pretty handily. First game was against a team who hadn't really played tournaments before. The second round was against quite a good team. Shout out to Jamie Clifford, who managed to take down Green Tide 14-6 with World Eaters. So that was pretty impressive. And shout out to the Forge Fiend I played into that caused 17 wounds on my Paladins in Overwatch. That was fun times. But we managed to win that. Then we played into the other competitive team there, 6-, what a witty name, featuring our very own Jack Chapman. And they edged us there with a couple of 9-11s and a 7-13 loss for us. So we just assumed we were going to come second. But fortunately, they decided to throw it away on the Sunday morning by losing to the team that we had beaten, BD Gaming, which led to this really interesting situation where we get to the final round. We've got 3 teams on 3-1, and it was like we had like an 8-point lead or something. But we knew the 6-, were playing like one of the bottom teams. So they were probably going to get a really big score. So it was quite a fun situation. We're like, well, we just have to go for it. Just got to push really hard and just try and get those massive wins and keep that advantage we've got. And we managed to pull it out. Jamie Clifford got a 20-0. I got a 20-0. Jamie let the team down and got a 19-1. We played kind of out of our skins there, and we were really happy with that. So yeah, we won the event, and Jamie Clifford got second best, like general. I got third best. So we got a couple of trophies and stuff. So yeah, it was good times.
Congratulations. I bet Dave's really kicking himself.
Yeah.
What a fool. He could have gone and he could have
a nice little trophy.
A nice little trophy. Is this a good time to talk about maybe what happened this weekend? If you follow us on any of the social medias, and if you don't, you should. Linktree in the description. You'll find out all of the things that we're doing outside of the videos. Our very own Dave Murdoch went to the Warhammer World event alongside 7 other of the team, I think. There was a good chunk of the boys there. I was initially going to go, and then I was like, but there is an Old World tournament the same weekend, so did that instead. However, Dave went, what was it? Anyone know his game score? Was he 4-2? Because it was a 6-round event. 3-3. So, solid, middle of the road, bang average, as we like to say. And turns out those events, because it is, said ahead of time, if you have a nice looking army, if you're a nice person, if you get the sportsmanship votes, there is also not just a best general, but there's a best overall vote or score, I should say. And we did have a winner of best overall, which was Dave Murdoch. Massive congratulations. Turns out just being really nice to play against sometimes gets you things. And that is a golden ticket to go and play in the finals in America, which is incredible.
It's just mental, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
just like at no point did Dave Murdoch go to that event and be like, could end this weekend with a trip to Atlanta for the World Championships. Like, it wouldn't have ever kind of crossed his mind. So, like, yeah, I mean, Dave's won so many best sportsman awards across the years. Like, he's everything we aspire to and everything our team loves. So, huge congratulations to Dave. And that's the second year in a row that a police member has been to a Warhammer World event, because obviously our very own Rob won best overall last year. So we're just creating a monopoly on World Championships golden tickets. Simple.
We're always good at playing, but we're good at being good people.
Yeah.
If you're upset about us having all the nice players, you can go online and complain about it. Don't worry. We won't mind. So, speaking of people who have been best overall and have gone to America to play in the World Finals, how are you doing, Rob? How was your weekend?
Yeah, really good. Went to Warhammer World with, there was 7 of us. It was a good crew. It was good fun. They're always really fun events there. Managed to do pretty well. I think I'm going to record a Path of the Archon to wrap up the event. So I won't go over it here, but I did fairly well and ended up going 5-1 and got a nice little bronze trophy. Where is it? There. Ooh.
How big was the event, by the way? How many people?
It was 64, I think, were registered on the first day. Nice. Yeah, so we all did really well. So great fun. Those events are great. If you can ever get to one, just do it.
There is a massive waiting list. You do have to, if you're going as a group, just all get together and be like, how many people are going? All right, 4 of us. Sound. All of us try and buy 4 tickets. Worst case scenario, one of us refunds 4 tickets because it's the best way to get them.
Definitely.
Me and my friend Craig did that. I managed to get the 2 tickets and then sent them on to him and Aaron, who went in my stead. Shout out to Craig because he asked for this shout out. So this is the first bit of sponsored content I've done. He didn't pay me. He just drove me on Monday. He... Out of 64 players, he came 32nd, which is as bang average as they come. So congratulations.
Hero. One of us.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. And last of all, but not least of all, we've got John. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I've done no Warhammer over the weekend.
All right, moving on then.
Instead, I've been looking at PDFs of things I shouldn't be looking at. So
I don't know what you're talking about. Not a clue. Not a clue. Well, anything else that you want to go with before we quickly wrap up there and move on to what we got, or did just truly nothing to talk about this week? Cool.
Really.
I was at
this week, apparently.
I was at my second square-based Old World event. Episode of Close Order going through the games has just been recorded and will be going up tomorrow on the Old World channel, to check that one out if you're interested. There will be a state of play with Richie, who is a phenomenal dwarf player, coming out on Thursday, as long as nothing goes wrong. He hasn't lost a game, I should say, over the last 3 events he's went to, so that should give you a clue as to how good he is. And other than that, I've been painting feverishly because I left everything to the last minute. So there's my hobby roundup. I spent almost every minute of last week painting or working or recording. And then I came home, and on Monday, I didn't have to do any of those things. And that was nice. But it's not just Old World promotion that I do, because we are maybe the best. Some have said, at least 2 people, Tom Lohman and myself, have said that we are the best at self-promotion. And I'll pass over to, again, dear leader Chris. What have we done this week?
Right. If you're a member, you will know that a whole host of videos recently hit the members only, where I sat down with Ed and we kind of did a Combat 101 series, 8 episodes, where we spoke about 8 different things. We spoke about how to move wherever you like in the combat phase, how to block yourself off for shenanigans, how to play around fight first, how to move block with large units, dealing with transports, wrapping vehicles, and setting up heroic interventions, and how to avoid heroic interventions. They're all kind of like 5 minutes long. So if you're interested in checking those out, become a member. They will be going out at some point soon, once a week for the general public. But trying to give some good value to you, lovely members. We've got over 20 members, guys. So why not become a member? You get early content, you get specific content. We're running a league at the moment, TTS League, with our coaching mentees. So yeah, there's loads of good stuff there. So check out the membership tab and see if anything appeals to you. We've had Cracking the Codex, where Scrivo and Ed spoke about going faster with the Cult of Speed. So if we all know red ones go faster, so if you've got red buggies, go see if it's worth it. And then finally, Tom's new series, Counterplay Plus Plus, where he's talking about specific meta menaces. They're going out early for members, and then we're putting them out to general public, and 2 are now out to general public. So if you want to know how to deal with warp talons or meganobs, then go check that out. Tom's really proud of them. The videos are getting really good feedback in the comments, so they'll be very useful. And again, they're short, 10-15 minutes, easily absorbable. In terms of live stuff, obviously we have Bug Watch every other Monday, and Bug Watch was on yesterday, and Davey solved everything for you guys, because him and JP asked the question, so what Tyranid players going to do now? Now that Spore Mines can't do actions, the world has fallen apart. Surely Tyranids are now awful, or more awful than they were. Well, you know what? They're there to save the day and tell you what you need to do. And that's already got like loads of views. Apparently, chat was popping off when it was on. So they're smashing it as always. So yeah, that's kind of it. Like, subscribe, do all that jazz, and be happy.
Yeah. As always, do leave comments. Helps the engagement, get more eyes on this thing. And speaking of comments, let's have a quick whiz through on who is here. Martin's here. Good to see you, Martin. Pickleaxe says, hey, everyone. Hi, Pickleaxe. Good to see you as well. Same to you, Simon. Evening, everyone. Craig's here. Craig, my friend, who I shouted out. He's thanked me for my shilling. Gordon Chung. Evening, folks. Good to have you here, Gordon. And Thierry as well. Good evening. Good evening to you, Thierry. So, we're here for... snuck in at the last minute. Iniquity. Good to have you with us. Evening, chaps. Hope you're all well. We are all well. I have a bit of a cold, but I don't feel unwell. I just have to blow my nose a lot. It's fine. So, we're going to be talking about the new Pariah Nexus GT pack. We're going to give you some hot takes. A lot of channels you go to, they're going to read every word. That's boring. That's dull. If you have functioning eyes, you can read things. Or you can just go to the Goonhammer review and they'll tell you what to think. That's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to tell you what maybe you shouldn't think. We're going to tell you some illegal thoughts. That's right. We've got some hot takes coming at you. Before we get into the maps, because we are going to talk about the maps first, I just want to say, and maybe this is me not having read the initial Leviathan tournament pack, but when I'm looking at the actual, how everything's structured, it feels to me like they've actually spelled out how the game is played a lot more clearly. Was it like that in Leviathan and I just didn't bother reading it because lol Eldar? Or have they stepped the game up? Can any of you, give me a bit of an update on that one?
I really think they have added just a couple of new bits, haven't they? A couple of more steps just to clear up the ambiguity that always seemed to come up, like redeploys, like things like that. They've just made it nice and clear. Yeah. It just looks like a very positive move forward.
It's a quality of life thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what was it? Beginning of the year or end of last year, they kind of did that thing where they just added like a load of FAQs in just to answer those things that we'd all been going on about for like months. And this just seems a kind of an extension of that. They're just a bit more aware, maybe because of who's getting involved in like the balancing team and that sort of thing. But they're just a bit more aware of what the common complaints are and what the general tournament players are feeling like they're missing out on. And they're actually starting to do those sorts of things, which I think is really positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Props to Games Workshop. As much as it is easy to, rag on them, it is nice just to say, if you do something good, congratulations. Please continue doing the good stuff, and we'll keep saying, actually, that's really good. I'm happy with that. Because there's, you got to lead with the carrot as well as the whip. There's no point just being like, oh, you're crap all the time. Why would they ever change? A couple of things that I'd like to talk about then in terms of the before game stuff. New orders, quick one on that. It used to be once per game. Now it is any turn you can use it. Costs you a CP, you can chuck away one of your tactical secondaries and you can generate a new one, but it's not capped to once per game. How do you feel about this? Give me some thoughts, Rob.
I think it's really good. The changes they've made to the cards, it's generally a lower scoring game now. So if you draw 2 duds, you could be in a bad position if they didn't change this, I think. So it's a very good thing. And to make up for it, there's 2 more cards in the deck. So we've got 18 cards in there now.
Interesting. Like it. Chris, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I really like it. I think the fact that you can now, as someone who's playing Grey Knights at the moment, they score their cards really well, but you can still just draw duds. I drew Bring It Down and Catch Only Outpost turn 1. I'm like, if I drew this turn 3, that'd be lovely, but turn 1, this is crap. Oh well, I guess I'll be scoring neither. Whereas now you can kind of go, I can get rid of 1 for a CP at the end of my turn, and I can redraw 1 with my CP for the first turn and see if I can score one of those. And it just helps smooth things over a bit, and especially those armies that have the regen, or those armies that just don't have that great of stratagems. It means that you can be consistently just kind of ticking over. I think we like it.
Scrivo, you want to add your voice to the choir?
Yeah, so to me, the biggest quality of life change has been the way they've kind of looked at some of the actual secondaries and gone, is there a time where this is impossible to achieve? And is it a feels bad if you draw it and there's nothing you can do about it? Like, say, turn 1, drawing Bring It Down to an army that doesn't have any vehicles or monsters. The fact they've put all that stuff on the cards, I like that, because it's some cleaning up that probably should have been there from the get-go.
Okay.
On some of them, but not all of them, which was a little frustrating, right?
The change to the card is definitely nice. I personally dislike this change. I don't think it's bad, but I dislike it. I quite like, and especially the more I play more limited rule systems, I've come to appreciate that having less options means that your limited resources cost more, and it's a more meaningful choice to when you use that once per game. In reality, is it a more meaningful choice? Because realistically, you just use it on turn 4 or 5. But sort of my gut feeling is that I'm a little sad about it going. I don't think it's bad. I just preferred it the way that it was before, which is not particularly a hot take, but you 3 are wrong. I'm right.
Lukewarm take.
Yeah, lukewarm. Cool. So, I mean, we started with something that's very difficult to have strong opinions on, I think. So, and then just quickly before we go into the maps as well, the other thing is the clarification of actions. Used to be every unit and their dog could do actions, and now there are very few things that can do actions on the competitive front. Yeah. Absolutely. Round of applause. If you're bringing Nurglings, get in the bin. If you're bringing anything that's OC0, sucks to be you. If you're bringing planes, you probably don't need to be punished for your decisions.
You're punishing yourself right now.
Yeah, bring planes. Make the noises go as you lose all of your games. So, now, you can't do actions if you are an aircraft unit. Battle Shocked, that was there already. OC0, within engagement range. I don't care if you've got pistols. If it advanced or fell back, I don't care if you're eligible to shoot, or if it's not eligible to shoot. And there is a change there as well that Titanic units can shoot or be in engagement range and do actions, which is pretty neat. I like that. That's pretty cool. We're going to go in reverse order this time. Scrivo, what are we thinking about this change to actions?
I think it's needed, because the way they had to clarify it countless times about what was eligible to shoot, the fact that things without a gun profile was still eligible to shoot, all felt like it was correcting something that probably shouldn't have ever been something that needed correcting. It should have just been actions that we had in 9th edition that kind of did the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Chris, what are you feeling?
It made literally no sense to have got rid of actions. I genuinely can't think of a single reason why, one of the few good things that came out of one of the few good things that came out of 9th was actions, and they got rid of it. It made no sense to get rid of it, so I'm very glad that they have come back and seen sense. It's just the classic tightening up of things, and it just makes their rules writing so much easier. So,
Have you got some behind the scenes goss, John?
Well,
is that what this
the
is?
development process is that if they started writing this 3 years ago, or well, now 4 years ago, so for launch of the edition, they start writing the next edition. So the 9th edition correction of introducing how actions worked was after the development period for that initial pack. So it's literally like they're not even thinking about that. That's something they're doing kind of on the side just to kind of patch up the old product. It's almost like a backwards thing that I think they quite often get caught doing, where they're kind of like they get kind of a bit ahead of themselves. Which
yeah, I mean, so
weird.
a good conversation that I was having over the weekend is how under-resourced all of the departments in Games Workshop are, despite them making money hand over fist like some sort of ludicrous 1400s robber baron. It is wild. Like, they have made record profit year after year, and they do not pay their staff enough or hire enough staff. It is ludicrous. And then we get stuff like the launch of 10th edition where it's all gone wrong, which is not entirely that. There were other factors, but still, like, come on, guys, just hire more staff and pay them well. Like, it's not hard. Your profits will not take a dip. In fact, they will go up. But ranting about capitalism aside, give me your thoughts on the action change, Rob.
No, I completely agree with the other two, and actions from 9th. That's what this is, and it should have always been that way. And it makes this. It's going to make the game a lot more tactical and real decisions. Not just I'm just going to sit, make sure I've got an army with auto 6 advance, and I can do an action anywhere I want. It means there's actual tactical thinking behind things. And you can't just max those actions in the middle anymore for free.
Yep. Perfect. I was going to disagree just because it seems boring to have all 4 people say that this is a good change, but no, it's a good change. Here's my spicy take. I'm so glad that they're making the floor of the game harder for people to play. One of my least favorite things about 10th edition is that the players who are decent but not good are now closer to the players who are good. And then, like the gap feels smaller to me because of all the minutiae. And you could call it ridiculous bookkeeping from 9th edition, but I liked it. But stuff like this, where you could just accidentally stumble your way into being like, oh, I can do actions here because even though I've deployed a little bit out the way, this unit has, this Wayleaper has an assault gun. So it gets to move 1,000,000 miles and do an action when there's no way in hell I should. I didn't look at you. I played a Wayleaper at the start of the edition, and I probably positioned poorly as well. But, you actually have to tactically plan out your turns a bit more now. So I think that's a really good change. I'm very pleased to see it. All right. I've been saying that we're going to move on to the missions next, like the map packs next. So let's just do it. Let's just get it over and done with. First of all, Crucible of Battle. So, John, you made these. Do you want to give us a quick walkthrough on what we're seeing?
Right, so just to confuse things, I've added more layers to it. So you'll notice it's kind of got like a frame around the edge of it. That is your strategic reserve kind of border. So that's a 6-inch like area where you can drop in. So you'll notice that the top left and bottom right objectives you can strap reserve onto. So I think that's an important thing to kind of note on these maps. And then also what I've done is I've put the engage on all fronts quarters. So you'll notice that they've got kind of cubes that do kind of butt up against each other, but they are 9 from the center. So that's quite a big change, and it kind of affects where you're going to be positioning. So I was kind of like, I was looking at and kind of making the maps, and I was like, positionally, what else changes? And then obviously the important one of seeing where the deployment zones kind of go to each other. And when measuring it, this one's actually just over 21 inches away, which I think it already was. It's not really changed. It's just more the other stuff around it that's changed.
That's interesting, because I was assuming you were 24 away.
I also thought that.
Yeah.
No, this one's
I knew it was a really weird number, so I had to measure it just to get it right.
Fun. All right, cool. So Crucible of Battle is, I think, entirely the same as it always has been.
Yeah.
Cool. Great one to start off with, just so we can see the way you've laid out the maps. Lovely stuff. What are we moving on to next?
Right. If it listens to me. Right, there we go. Dawn of War.
Dawn of War. Again, look at Dawn of War. Looks pretty similar to me. Any changes on this one?
We've gained 2 inches.
It's important.
So I'm not going to make a joke.
The deployment zones have gone up to 12 inches, which means I think all the big stuff that couldn't deploy properly or had to deploy in a really specific way now has a bit more freedom. So I think a Baneblade can actually fit long ways instead of having to go sideways.
So this is a weird holdover from, I guess, them changing the deployment zones from being, 6 by 4 foot. The maps from being 6 by 4 foot to 60 by 44 inches, which is just an odd change.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, this is, and we're going to see a trend here. This is good for melee, which is interesting. I'm not against these changes, but yeah. So I guess 4 inches shorter in the center. That's quite a big change.
Gets you interaction close, quicker, more consistently as well, doesn't it? If you're only 20 away, that gives you a lot of units out there. Just that. Yeah. Oh, cool. Actually, I could go for this turn 1.
What I quite like about it is now that you can't advance and do actions, you are closer to the objectives, which I think is kind of what you're saying, but I'm just spelling it out, basically. I'm saying the words objectives and turn 1. So it's nice to be able to potentially get those things down. Although if you're still 10 inches away, you need a 7-inch move to get onto the objective turn 1. So some things can do it, some things can't.
Yeah, it means that if you're just advancing just to get onto it, it means a lot of normal sort of infantry, not your jump pack kind of guys, have got a better chance of getting on at least now.
Sure. That makes sense, yeah. Looking forward to seeing the changes in terrain packs, because that's going to be...
it's good. I think that's the thing I'm taking away. I'm most interested to see how, because UKTC are going to have to completely redesign.
But what if they don't? What if they just leave it?
Well, I mean, they're automatically outdated now.
Yeah.
So just because of the certain measurements. So, yeah. Go on, Zach. Do something exciting.
I know. Zach has seen some of our stuff before. If you're watching, Zach, I'm looking forward to seeing the Old World LGT FAQ. Currently, you can advance a plague furnace 72 inches. Please fix that. Moving on. There's some busted stuff in Old World. It's so funny. Cool. So Dawn of War, now closer, more violent, more gooder. We love to see it. What do we got next?
Hammer and Anvil.
Hammer and Anvil. All right. So this is again 18, 18, 36. Is that a shorter gap in the middle as well? 24? No, it's the same. You've even put it on there. I was just trying to do the math in my head.
Is this the same as it was before?
I think so.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar.
I think it's the same, yeah.
Cool.
Hammer and Anvil is the worst deployment to have at events, because events are not designed for you to be able to walk around the sides. Please stop doing it. Give us more corners. Corners are fun. Yeah. Dawn of War's boring. Hammer and Anvil hurts my back. There's your hot take. Move. Go. Go, go, go.
Right. Search and destroy as requested.
Search and destroy. Oh, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
That's pretty close.
I like, this is one thing to note, is that now all the maps are showing the measurements from the outside rather than from the center.
How good is it?
Yeah. I mean, I always I forget the 1410 for this map, and I'm like, okay, right, how many is it across? And I'm like looking at the thing, and it's just so much easier to just be like 10, 14. Job done. So, well done. Another little quality of life thing that makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So the gap in the middle, that seems to have got smaller. How much smaller has it got?
You're technically 9 in that corner apart from that side.
9 inches away.
I think, did it used to be 14 inches apart or something like that?
I think it's actually not changed, having a look at the cards.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah, so it's a 9 inch from the centre.
It's just always been 9 inches away and not really realised it.
But just in that little corner, and then the way the terrain lands, you don't tend to drop anything in those areas.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah, because you have to full commit. Maybe if you're playing orcs. All right, fair play. Yeah. No wonder I'm getting charged turn 1 on this map by orcs. About it. Yeah, that does suck. Cool. All right. Sweet. Nice map. Here's one that we can talk about.
My eyes.
First of all, I feel it's what is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Short charges turn 1. If you can somehow trick your gunline opponent to deploy right at the front of their deployment zone, don't ask me how you're going to do it, but maybe you can do it. You can get a very short 16-inch charge there. What are we thinking about this one? We're going to go straight to our melee and short-range charge specialist, talking about you, Rob. What are we thinking?
I'm thinking I can drop 10 incubi turn 1 inch into a deployment zone. That is what I'm thinking if I frontline that raider.
That's pretty far. And they then get to charge, do they?
Yeah, they still get to charge. So I'm charging a home field objective with a raider potentially turn 1.
Yeah, and that's not the incubi, that's the raider. The incubi can do whatever it fancies, but there is some wild stuff there. Speaking of people who like melee, you've been playing Bully Boys recently, John. Do you want to charge people turn 1?
I do, but this made me go, I want to use Jump Pack Death Company and put them right on that corner and just run at people screaming. It seems exciting, right?
Oh, it seems very exciting. And then someone who I think likes to hide in corners. I don't know. I guess we'll talk to him. What do you think about this one?
Don't like it.
Those corners look very empty.
Well, I mean, firstly, I only ever Sweeping Engagement was the one which was like a weird mix of Dawn of War and Diagonals, right? Yeah. So I only ever got to play that once, and I actually really quite enjoyed it. I was like, oh, this is a bit different. I look at this, I'm just like, why? What was wrong with the old one, which no one was using anyway? So that's my kind of like why. But also, I still don't know why. I don't understand why they've gone down this route. It looks rubbish. It annoys me for no real reason. I can't think of any legitimate tactical reason. It's the more I look at it, the more it infuriates me.
You know what's going to happen 50% of the time on this map in events? One player is going to go, I'm going to go for the turn 1 charge. Put their 400-point unit in that corner, go second and lose that 400-point unit and lose the game.
Good.
Sounds good to me.
Right.
Yeah.
I buy that.
See if start using it in events. Because like you take the UKTC, they're not using Sweeping Engagement at the moment. So will this make them want to do it? I don't know. Hopefully not.
After you fix Dragged Along, put this in the pack. I want to play this. Like, put this in the old world pack. I don't care. Like, I just want to play this wacky deployment. This
a big L right on each person's list.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really interesting point. You just like put the full, like the big 9-inch square L right in the corner of that weird. No, that's so good for like melee staging armies. And then you put nothing else in the middle and you just go, it's the death zone.
Just crates lining the sides, 3 alleys, Dawn of War style. That's it.
We've got a couple of comments. Sean says, an extra 2 inches always helps. Sean, you don't have to tell it on yourself on the internet. Pickleat says, they've confirmed, UKTC have confirmed they're updating for the next event after Bristol. That's great. We all assumed that they would, but you know, it's much funnier just to pretend that they wouldn't. And then Craig says, sweeping engagement, long edge diagonals were a nightmare to map up. This is great. That's his hot take. That makes perfect sense, to be honest. This is easier to map out. Although it is going to look super weird, and my opponents are going to cheat against me on the right-hand side and get more movement than they should do.
Yeah. So the reason I think a lot of people struggled with the old one is everyone felt obliged to drop down their tape measure, marking it out initially, and then it just knocks everything around. It becomes a real kerfuffle. But in reality, you just put some sticks down. Easy.
I'm definitely guilty of mapping that out and then putting my things in that ruin forward of the deployment zone, and then realizing halfway through my first move phase, I'm like, oh, I've cheated. I will move these guys back and then move them forward again.
Yeah,
I had no issues with it. Maybe I'm just dealt different, but you know, what are we going to do?
It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh well, thank you. I wasn't going to say it myself.
Speaking of perfect,
speaking of perfect,
tipping point.
It's the same thing but different. Should we just rehash all the same things we said? Do you want to start off, John? Say the same stuff.
So this is too far. 20 inches is not the charge I want in that corner. But yeah, the point does stand. It's not as close as I'd like. Plus, I'm never going to play this. I don't play sideways.
Yeah. That's a good point. Sideways is the devil. So let's just pretend we haven't seen this and go from there.
Just something to remember when we get into missions. See that objective on the top left there? Yeah. It's less than 12 inches away from your deployment line. Yeah. When we get into missions, that might become important.
A scouting thing. Maybe if you can scout 6 or 9? 9?
Or if it doesn't, or if it stays in that location for a game, it may do something to points.
Yeah, that is very fair. That is very fair. All right, is that the last of the maps?
I believe so. That's all 6 of them. So, we've not gained maps.
No, we've so from memory, we've lost the diagonal. Is that correct?
Yes. So this replaced
Sweeping Engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite of all the deployment maps, and I was able to measure it out like a functional human being. So I'm sad.
At no point was this difficult to do. Like,
Thank you.
Like, you stick one dice in the center point, one dice in the corner, and then you just do your line across.
Fill a line, yeah.
And then you put the terrain down.
Yeah. But UKTC is like a fairly obvious where you're going to deploy anyway behind the. It makes this should not make things easier.
Yeah. Or John is apparently a forest dweller and he brings sticks with him and just puts them on the table. It's all I got from your thing there.
You put down your 9-inch carrot and you're done.
Excellent. So we've got both ends of the extreme, needing extra 2 inches and a 9-inch carrot. So Donnie asked, do tables allow walk all the way around at GTs? Non-tournament player asking. Unfortunately, not a lot of the time. It's a logistical space issue. You've got to book as many people into a hall as you can to make sure that the cost of the hall is covered and you make potential profit so you can continue on doing more, which means that you have to have tables closer to each other to fit more in, which means that you can't just walk around the tables. It's a shame, but it's just the realities of the logistics of running a tournament.
On the flip side, North American tournaments quite often have them spread out because they've got a lot of space.
Everything's bigger in North America.
As do Saffron Slam events. Shout out to Lewis.
That's true.
Because they're in North America. Saffron, Walden, North America.
Yeah, when I went there, I was struck at how American and commercialized everything was. Perfect. So, moving on to, I guess we should probably go to mission rules, because that's next in my PDF. So, have we got those for the screen, or are we just going to talk about those? Perfect. That's fine. We can't get in trouble then.
Yeah, so that's why I've not done it.
Starting off with, let's go back to Big Head. Perfect. Oh, you really do have a big head.
Big head
yeah, oi, Big Head. I'm the one who's got the ego around here. Thank you very much, sir. Let's start off with mission rule, hidden supplies. This is, you can't have it with the ritual as well, which is good because the ritual is dumb and stupid and should go in a bin. This is where you add an additional objective marker in no man's land, and you, instead of having one central, you have two that are a little bit apart, just sort of corner to corner. It just adds an additional objective marker in the center. I don't think this has changed at all, has it? No.
Same.
Cool. Let's move on. I don't like, well, I think the rule and it's fine, but the combination that events put it with, where they're like, oh, objectives matter, or objectives don't matter, but here's an extra one. I don't know when I want to see this, but it's not ever when I actually do see it.
I never want to see it as a primary denial army. I just, no.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so the first of the new mission rules, we've got Fog of War. In the first battle round, units have the benefit of cover, and players cannot use core stratagems, excluding the New Order stratagem. So, you can't go to ground. You can't overwatch, actually. That's quite big. What are we thinking about this one? You are looking like you want to say something, Scrivo. Give me a hot take.
I like it because it's a small change that when you first look at your arts, it's not much, but it's going to be quite impactful.
Yeah.
Because also, it's not as impactful as you think in some respects. Like, you only have one CP.
Yeah.
And if you're defensively doing a reroll, you're probably making a mistake. And if you're aggressively doing a reroll, you're probably making a mistake. So, to me, I'm like, do you really need the core strats in your first turn? Not as much. If it was all strats, maybe I'd be like, that's very spicy.
What I'm looking forward to seeing is my opponent not be able to reroll their advance roll and get only 5 points of primary on turn 2. That is going to be absolutely huge. Big fan of that. All right. Rob, what are you thinking about this one?
I really dislike land raiders that pop smoke turn 1.
Nice.
Yeah. So none of that. It means you have to. You can't ride your luck as much, really, isn't it? That's what this card is doing. You can't ride your luck with core stratagems.
Yeah, makes sense. Chris?
Well, obviously we have, of course, lost Chilling Reign. So
rest in peace.
We're thinking of what is that going to do for UKTC? So as I'm reading through this, I'm like, what do we think is going to be the conventional, the one that he's just going to default to?
I'm wondering if he just defaults to not having one, honestly.
Not having one, yeah. I actually quite like this.
Chilling Reign.
I quite like a special UKTC only FAQ.
Yeah.
I actually quite like this one, just as a standard one. I think getting cover turn one stops any potential. Let's say in the
Oh,
future.
poor Admech.
Yeah,
One benefit.
I know.
Oh,
I've literally no idea what's about to drop with Admech. But what,
Yeah.
let's say some army in the future comes out which can do those, bring back that Alpha Strike type thing, and just everything having cover is actually a bit of a safe haven. It makes sense in terms of battles and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I do actually quite like this. If this was just the staple one, I would have no issue. I'm sure there are people out there being like, no, I need my blah blah blah, but actually I don't.
Is this
fortunately,
a throwback to, was it 8th or 9th edition where they were trying to
yeah, 8th edition.
balance
If
round
you went
first
second,
turn?
you just got cover.
Your whole army
Yes.
got cover or something, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Because
yeah.
there was no terrain on any board ever that
Yeah.
mattered. So you just got shot off the board turn one because the game got more and more lethal as the edition progressed. Thank you, Space Marines. So then they just were like, oh, hey, by the way, everyone gets cover if they go second, I
Yeah, I
guess.
remember that. That was good.
It was honestly a really good change at the time.
Yeah.
Made you slightly less likely to get tabled going second. Cool. We talked about that one. I like it. I think it is solid. I'm really glad that there are no really aggressive horde armies turn one that don't want to be shot off the board, that are probably going to absolutely revel in this change if it becomes the default, because you can't hide 120 boys. Oops, did I say green horde?
They've got a 5-up invite anyway.
But what if they had more Goodera? Because I think they've got a 5-up save normally, right? So taking them to a 4-up save against small arms fire, because we know there's lots of AP0 guns in the game.
So many.
Well, in my head, it makes a difference. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see. Moving on, we have got Adapt or Die, which is what you're going to have to do with these mission packs, because if you're playing like you were before, you're going to lose all your games. So, for players using fixed missions, once per game, after scoring any VP at the end of the player turn, you can discard one of your secondary cards. That means you can get rid of one of the ones that you picked at the start of the game. That is wild. You then get to generate another one. I believe the way that this works is you're still capped at 40 secondary points, but you're capped at 20 points per card, which means that you could get, say, Bring It Down, know that you can only get 10 to 12 points on it, get that in the first 2 turns, swap it over to another scoring card, and then still be able to get 15 across the 2 of them or whatever, and it doesn't harm you. I think this is really interesting.
I think it's going to be really commonly used. I think fixed are going to be pretty popular, I think. And, it's that classic, like how my opponent's chosen Assassinate, so I'll just hide my characters. So then what you do is you don't choose Assassinate, and then you wait until the Thousand Sons player has gone, I'm going to pop out now. And they're like, right, now I'm going to switch to Assassinate, and boom. So I think this is a really cool one.
I absolutely agree. Something key to note is it is the end of your turn that you change them, so it gives your opponent a turn to respond to whatever you pull out. But 100%. Picking Assassinate early on is always risky. And just to clarify, what it does for tactical is if you are playing tactical twice per battle, after you draw a secondary mission card, you can draw another one and then shuffle one of the 2 back into their secondary deck. So you bring, turn 1, Bring It Down. You just I don't want to do that. Going to draw another one. Don't have to spend a CP for it. Bring It Down. Probably good later in the game. Goes back in the deck. I think this is really good. I'd like this to be the default. Maybe not, actually. It might get a bit old.
One to be. That's just another one I think could be an interesting.
I think it would get old quickly if it was default.
I have the exact opposite. I really dislike this card.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a win more card. So you can start pushing, and your game plan can be push the other side, get behind enemy lines turn 2. You can build around it. This deck really feels like they're trying to say, if you're going to score 100, you have to play the perfect game.
Yeah.
And I feel like this mission rule is completely counterproductive to that.
Okay. That's fair. I think it's also another sort of I was complaining about the changes that 10th edition that made the skill floor, higher effectively. I think this is something that goes against that. You can unpunish yourself if you pick secondaries that can be punished. So I'd have to play around with it to get a real feel for whether I like it or not. How are you feeling, Scrivo?
See, I like it, but I think it would be one that I'd like to play once in 6 rounds, not more than that, I think.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's very fair. Cool. Moving on. Inspiring leadership. Do you play Night Lords? Do you play Chaos Knights? Do you play any of the leadership debuff armies? If you did, get wrecked, because that's even worse now. While a player's warlord is not within their deployment zone, each time a unit from that player's army takes a battle shock test, if the warlord is within 9 and visible to that unit, add 1 to the test. This is stupid. Stop trying to unfuck leadership. Like, you've just made it maybe possibly half decent. I still don't think it is. I think Games Workshop can't write leadership to save their lives. Don't write something that makes it harder for leadership armies to do their thing. That just feels not good. Put it in a narrative pack. Don't put it in a tournament pack. Anyone else got strong opinions on this?
You're not going to see it, so
No.
But I want to be righteously angry.
I think it'll be one where you do a pickup game with one of your mates, you draw it, and you go, should we just shuffle it back in? And
yeah, that's boring. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, God, I remember that from 8th edition, actually, yeah. You shuffle one in, and you're like, well, this is a waste of our time, eh? Cool. All right, well, we don't need to talk about it, and it sucks. Mission rule, prepared positions. This one is quite spicy, and I really like what it might do for the game. And it makes me feel quite good about stuff like Chaos Knights, where their battle line is good. So, players can target their battle line units with Go to the Ground and Heroic Intervention strats for 0 CP, but can't do that if they've already used that strat this turn. So you just get a free 0 CP strat, but you don't get to use it twice on battle line specifically. Who wants to go first on this one? Who's got the best troops? Chris?
My
what do you think?
Terminators and Strikes with their 2-up save would quite like just free cover.
Yeah. And also to get into combat.
Yeah.
Because it's, God, like, you're not making the charges.
Oh, my 10
Deep Strike.
Terminators.
Oh, you charged the Dread Knight that was near them? Shame. Anyway.
Shame it's a 400 point juggernaut would suddenly weave its way along.
Yeah, that had no other way of getting in because Deep Strike charges are so unreliable.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah I think I quite like it.
Yeah. Speaking of tanky armies that also like to be in the thick of things, how are you doing on this one, Scrivo?
So again, I suddenly took the lens of Space Marines with this. I was like,
Yeah.
Assault Intercessors led by a captain, just loitering, and they go, I'm not going to charge that because I don't want to be too close to them. But they make the mistake of doing a charge too close. That free Heroic Intervention, that could be quite clutch, I think. It'd be quite fun. Or boys doing it. Just boys just going, you didn't want, you avoided charging my boys. Look, the 20 boys are cuddling you now. Oh, no.
Shame. You know what takes that up another step, Scrivo?
Yeah.
Fights first. Lilith, Judicious, Lucius. So you sit there and you go, cool. I am sitting on this primary with my 20 plus OC unit. And if you try any shenanigans, I'm going to have 2 free CP effectively. This mission rule is giving you like 6 CP for free, basically, really, isn't it? It is free. It is free CP for you to use in specific ways.
This is awesome, actually. So Ed Watts is going to be absolutely pumped about this one, I'm sure.
I've never played him.
With his like big bricks of 20 Crusaders plus characters, or just even heavy intercessors, because apparently he thinks they're good and then wins games with them, so they must be. Like, I don't agree, but I mean, the stats don't lie, so what are you going to do? Yeah, if you like battle line, which some people do, some armies do more than others, and some players do more than others, but this is so good if you're playing an army that can really abuse it. Heroic Intervention on a beefy melee unit is so nice. Or just like any big unit to really ruin your opponent's day and get onto objectives after they've charged you. Lovely stuff. All right, I've just knocked my mouse off the board, so in a smooth maneuver. Moving on to the next one.
Classic.
Raise banners. So I got really excited when I saw this one. I was like, they brought the secondary back? Raise banners? No. They brought it back as a mission rule, which is weird. So the way this works, at the end of your turn, if a battle line unit from their army is within range of an objective marker that you control, they put a banner on their marker, you score a VP towards your secondary, and that player's units can no longer raise a banner on that objective marker. That's weird. It's so clunky. You just like, I've got battle line on an objective. That once per game gets me a point. Woo! Doesn't feel worth doing. Realistically, what are you getting? Like 2 to 3 over the course of a game?
Do you have to survive?
No, you just control it at the end of your turn.
Yeah. So a great example of this is a battle line unit that's got sticky. It does the banner, and then the next turn it just walks off. And as long as your opponent doesn't jump on it, it's just ticking on.
You only get it once.
You only get it once.
That's what's put me off. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, every turn? That's amazing. No, it's
you get
I thought it was
just more extra primary points, basically.
Secondary. secondary.
It's primaries. Is it secondary points?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
actually
that-
quite big. Yeah.
Yeah, because secondaries are harder to score, as you've been saying,
Yeah.
but I'm still not jazzed about getting an extra 3 secondary points just because I've committed, my battle line to do things. My opponent's going to do the same. Effectively, we've both just got an extra 2 to 3 points.
Yeah. At
It's-
least it's
it,
not an
yeah.
action. At least it's not an action.
Yeah, now that actions are back, they've made sure that it wasn't an action, which feels weird. But yeah, mixed feelings on that one. Like, it's fine. It could be the default, and I'd be like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, that's probably a good shout for a default, and just make sure everyone at your event scores an extra couple of points, which
And
might
takes
be
that
better
one.
for ITC points, like general scores.
Alone, it's not going to incentivize Battleline enough, but there's enough things that do incentivize Battleline that you'll be bringing a few units now, so it'll make some changes to list design.
I think, to be honest, most armies were bringing a couple of units of battle line anyway. Like, if you look at the good armies, CSM love Legionnaires, Necrons, they still like Immortals. Necron Warriors can make a comeback because of, Green Horde. Oh, hey, Orcs, they've got Boys. What else have we got? What are some other good armies in the game? Grey Knights. Yeah, everything they play is either, their Dread Knights or their troops. There's not really anything else. I think
it's more it takes the skew list down a peg more than...
Even the skew lists, like, to be fair, like Iron Storm, you might not see as much, but like all you do is you put one unit of
whatever Assault Intercessors to hold you back.
Yeah, or people put in like a tactical Marine squad or an Intercessor squad, which I've been raging about for the last like entire edition, going, they're bad, just take something better. But now there's actually maybe a reason to do it, so that's going to suck for me. Just destroy my mental. Cool. Then we've got Rapid Escalation, and this is my favourite out of all the mission rules because it is different and it is fun. First battle round, this is a reason you might take Battle Line. You can set up a Battle Line unit from Strategic Reserve in the reinforcement step of their first movement phase. So you can't Rapid Ingress turn 1, but turn 1, within 6 inches of the board, you can put up to 200 points of a single Battle Line unit on the board. How are we feeling about this?
It's going to be very good in some matchup with some armies, isn't it?
Company of Hunters Outriders in your deployment zone, almost just right there. That's terrifying. I don't think you would.
Boys.
Yeah, how much is 20 Orc Boys?
Yeah,
less than 200.
Yeah, so you basically get a free what's the cycle that lets you to jump?
To jump, yeah, weird boy.
Double to jump, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Yeah, it's good. It gets you up the board, which is very spicy. Anyone who can take a good unit in Battle Line, not Paladins, Grey Knight Terminators or Strikes, even like maybe just putting like
Terminators do 10, so you can do with that. But
how about a Carnivore?
You know how I feel about putting Carnivores up the board in Strategic Reserves. The downside to this is you can't Rapid Ingress it, but I guess you can put a couple of Carnivores in reserve and go, oh, this is an opportunity where I can put it on the board. Or you just save it until the next turn and you Rapid Ingress it.
This also works if you go second, so you can always set it up for a safe place to come down. So if they do pounce on it, you can punish them as well.
Yeah. Or there's a lot of maps where, you're within, the objective is 8 inches from the board edge, so you can turn one Strategic Reserves onto the point, just get some some primary points. It's quite nice. Good one. I really like this. And then speaking of things that change the game for Battle Line that are also quite interesting and be interesting to play around, we've got Smoke and Mirrors. After both players have deployed their armies, starting with the attacker, so you do have a disadvantage for going first because we didn't need enough of those in 40k. Each player can place one unit from their army on the battlefield into strat reserves. It can't be bigger than 25% of the points, so that's 500 points. I'm not sure how many armies are bringing, 501 point units, but sure, it's fine. The way that's worded, could you take a transport off the board? Or because that's multiple units, would that not count? I'm not sure how that actually interacts.
Is it not multiple units?
I believe it's just one unit, right? Place one unit from their army, yeah.
Okay. So I guess you have a loaded transport then?
Yeah. I guess because the units inside aren't on the battlefield, so you can just pick up that Land Raid Redeemer and then go, wait, hold on, can I actually fit it in from Strat Reserve because it's so wide? I genuinely don't know if you can. Maybe you can't. But yeah, who's got thoughts on this one? Don't all speak at once.
Seems alright. Seems interesting. Wouldn't mind. Might be a one-off, you know?
I like it.
You know what it can do? It can mean that you can null deploy. I'm sure someone out there is going to figure out a way of putting 1,000 points of their army in reserve, and then this card comes up, and then you go, I'm going to put 500 points more in reserve, and then it's all going to come down turn 2, or you're going to be fully screened and then lose turn 2.
Yeah.
That lovely border.
Yeah.
I'd then drop everything. I'd to jump some orc boys around in a little line, and then suddenly, oh look, you can't actually drop anything in.
It's good for large infiltrating units, isn't it? Because you can just stick them, cover, like if you get like defender roll and just cover a huge area of the board, completely obliterate their ability to infiltrate, and then you get to pull that back. Or you can be aggressive with a good
That's true.
infiltrating unit.
It's before the turn roll off, so you don't know who's going.
Yeah, that's true. But you could still do it to nullify enemy infiltrators, can't you?
Yeah.
Or if you've got a unit that's been given like deep infiltrate that you wouldn't normally have, and you do that risky kind of drop with it, knowing that they're going to put all their resources there and bait them to misdeploy, to then just correct it. It's just fun. I like that.
Yeah. Cool. Got a couple of people in chat. Luke Harris giving us a wave. Good to see you, Luke. And Paint Celestine speaking things that changed the game. What do we think about our new Sister Ava ladies? I haven't looked because I find it quite dull to look at like a review that tells me here are some things about it. I think I'm just going to wait until I've got the full book in front of me.
They seem quite tasty. I think the points are going to be the important thing here.
Word on the street, going to be the most broken army in 10th edition. But you know what that could be? Incredibly clickbait titles. So we will find out. I literally haven't looked at a single rule for them.
Data sheets feel very 9th edition Drukari, where there's going to be 500 builds that are actually viable.
Yeah. It's just like, they can do this. Oh, cool. Oh, and they can do this too. And they can do this one. And they can also do that. Excellent. Great. So hopefully points are all right.
Celestine says, hope you like 30-inch moving Repentia. Hope you like 72-inch moving Plague Furnaces. And in my game, movement is way more busted, so sucks to be you. I don't think I win that argument. Not that it was an argument in the first place. Moving on, before I derail us any further, we've got Stalwarts. This is battle line units that perform an action, can still shoot, and they can also perform actions when they're in engagement range. This is incredibly okay. If my battle line's in combat, it's probably not good unless I'm playing some very specific armies, and those armies can't rely on like a once per event buff. It's just like, oh cool, this is the event where I win for free because I've got 120 orcs across the board and I decide to go cleanse and teleport home, or whatever combination of new secondaries is the new I just get loads of points. Yeah, I think there's not much to talk about on that one. Swift action. Battle line units that advance or fall back are still eligible to perform an action in that turn. Kind of the same, but being able to advance and do actions again is nice.
I think I prefer that one.
I think this one is quite strong. But
that's
again,
quite a nice quality of life thing to have, whereas the other one just feels like you might get drawn into a rough matchup and be like, oh man, and they can do that on this mission. That's rough. Whereas the advanced and action one just feels like, oh, that's nice for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. So that is the end of the mission rules. Before we quickly move on to the primary, do we have any burning thoughts on those, or shall we speed through? We'll speed through. All right. Yeah. Primary mission, taken hold. This is hold 5, hold up to 3, get 5 VP per objective you hold. It's exactly the same.
Good old classic Warhammer, isn't it?
Hold 3 objectives. I quite like it because you have to play around more objectives. It's, aggressively fine. Then we've got the ritual, remove all objective markers, and then you do an action that starts in the shooting phase. 1 unit of your army completes at the end of your turn, sets up an objective marker that is exactly 12 inches away from another objective marker in no man's land and not within 6. This is dumb. It was funny the first time I played it. I hope to never play it again.
It used to be 9.
Yeah, it used to be 9, and there was a thing about the edges, wasn't there? So now you can't cluster them as much.
It's a lot. There's less space to drop them in as well on a lot of the maps where there's suddenly less no man's land.
Yep.
As well.
Objectives now in the pack as well have to be set up more than an inch away from any terrain, which I don't think was there before.
They did already.
Okay.
But it wasn't in like the comp pack. So whether they just like bring something out for, oh, hey, competitive games don't have to play that because it's in like the core rules, I think, or something.
But 9 inches was too close. So I played it on the weekend, and I think at
So
the end of the
funny.
game I had created 4 or 5 objectives.
Is that one where it was mixed with scrambler fields?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Grey Knights, who were
Yeah,
just like, okay, there's 10 objectives on the
So-
board, and I can't land anywhere. Brilliant.
So for context, I had an army pinned in their backfield for the entire game. He scored 95 points.
Yeah. So this is near the start of the edition when we had Saffron teams. We had 100 draw because of this mission. It is incredibly stupid, and I hope that it doesn't go in any actual mission packs that I ever play on. If I'm not coming to your event, you can do what you want, but I hate it. Unexploded ordnance. This is new and spicy and weird. So, the objective markers that start the battle in No Man's Land are hazard objective markers. That means you don't care about the ones in your deployment. They're only there for secondary scoring. There's an action. You start in your shooting phase, and it completes at the end of your turn as long as you're still within range of that marker. And then, weirdly, that marker moves up to 6 inches. It can't end on top of other objective markers or inside impassable terrain, but otherwise go wild, go nuts, go crazy, go stupid. Realistically, move it directly towards your opponent, because it doesn't matter if you're stood on it. The way the scoring works is you score 8 VP for each objective marker in your opponent's deployment zone, 5 for each objective marker that is wholly within 6 of the opponent's deployment zone, and then 2 for each objective marker that is wholly within 12 of their deployment zone. Something key to point out here is that it's not the big 3-inch mat that we're super used to playing on. It's the little 40 mil circle. You only have to move that into, so turn 1, if you get the central one towards your opponent's deployment zone, you're not getting 2 points for it. You are getting 2 points for it because you can get that within 12. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, they just tried to make servo skulls not stupid.
They didn't manage.
No.
You know what is stupid about this, though?
Yeah.
On maps where the objective starts 10 inches away from each other's deployment zone.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't
In the middle.
move,
Yeah.
you both get 2 points.
Yep.
Yeah.
And from a
I don't
narrative
think it will
standpoint,
make it. I don't think it will make competitive.
No.
and from a narrative standpoint, you're literally moving unexploded
Unexploded
ordnance.
bombs, yeah.
Just launching it.
It's like what
Yeah.
you just
No, you have it.
punching
No, you have it.
It's like throw the grenade and like, no, I'm kicking it back at you. Like,
This is, to be fair, Chris, you probably love this because it's combining the 2 things you like most in life, which is 40k and golf. Because
so
you just
true.
sat there with pile drivers, been like, fuck you.
Oh, you're going to go the frisbee route there.
I'd forgotten that he'd played frisbee. That was in the past, and now he hits things with sticks. As all good cavemen should do.
Interesting thing about this mission, though, it is the one mission where it rewards you to go first. Because if you move it out first, it is very hard for your opponent to score primary.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Cool. And it's also interesting that it interacts negatively with your secondary score. That is an interesting thing about it we should probably mention. If you have to do things on objectives, suddenly it's really hard to do them because you've yeeted them all towards your opponent and you're no longer stood at them because you've gone,
Well, you just go with your army and shout war twice. And then
I'll be fine.
You're there
I'll be in the middle of the board and their deployment zone. But for people who play bad armies, like Drakari or Grey Knights, they'll probably suffer with it.
Yeah, we're not very fast. We don't have 16-inch move models with fly.
No, that bit's fine. But when the objective's in my half of the board, that's not where you want to be. Cool. So moving on, we've got Linchpin as another primary mission. So this is scoring at the end of the command phase, just normal scoring. The player whose turn it is does not control the objective marker. They score 3 VP. What?
So if you don't own your home objective, you score 3 VP for each objective marker you control. But if you do control your home objective, it's 5 instead.
Cool, thank you, because I read that 3 times and went, no, that's not. Brain Cellar in the chat, good to see Brain Cellar. That is how I was feeling. My brain was in the cellar. We've got, so you want to hold your, this is the opposite of last time. You want to hold your own objective marker. It makes a difference. You get more for everything you hold in the center. This is a fun dynamic. I like it.
Yeah.
It's stretching you out a bit more. It makes you kind of elasticated, perhaps.
Or hyper-aggressive.
That made me feel things. I'm not sure.
They're good things. I don't know.
I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me.
Speaking of things that I wish didn't awaken things in me,
Scorched Earth. Yeah, I hate Scorched Earth. Is it exactly the same as it was? I think it is.
You can do it turn 5 now. It
Okay,
doesn't
cool.
complete at the end of the next turn. So
That's bad, because normally what I really enjoyed was getting into my opponent's fifth turn, and they go, "Oh, I can't burn that," and you go, "Oh yeah, no, you probably should have done that earlier."
yeah.
And you've
And
lost,
I win
by that point.
I win by,
I win by 3 points.
actually.
It's not deliberate, you know. If they, I'd be like, "Do you want to burn it?" But no, they just forget to go for it, and then you're like, "Oh, cool, that's nice for me."
They've got rid of that 1 inch restriction. Not that anyone ever really
Yeah.
paid attention to that, but you used to have to be 1 inch away from the objective marker in order to burn it.
From the
What?
token, yeah.
And
You
they've
have to be
got
with, yeah.
not that anyone ever did that.
No.
But, now you do just have to control the objective.
That's interesting. Weird that they put that in, because in the core rules you can't stand on objective markers anyway, so you'd feel like that would kind of cover it anyway. Weird things. Okay, we got Obsidy 2 saying, "I think inspired leadership fine if they Okay, yeah, so the idea being that you're -1 outside of the bubble, but you get that would be a more interesting way of doing it. So you have to be within 9, otherwise you get a malus. I think that's interesting. Pain Celestine says, "Pretty sure if you don't have your home DZ objective, you have greater problems." You are playing the game wrong, my friend. What is good in life is to hold 4 objective, and none of them are yours. That is the best way to play 40k. Stu says you can burn multiple No Man's Land objectives now as well. Okay, on the same turn. That's cool. That is a difference, and sometimes you might want to do that. You don't get extra points, but you will, potentially deny more points from your opponent. Very cool. All right. So then we've got Supply Drop. This is you pick.
Shit.
Is it exactly the same?
The same and still fucking horrible.
Everyone's going to get it wrong.
It is
Still.
fantastic. I love it so much. Just be very clear with your opponent which one is going away on turn 3 and turn 4. Turn 5. Don't say this is the alpha, this is the omega. So this one's going away in turn 4. This one's going away in turn 5. And that way, there is no way to get it wrong. Just be very clear.
So not this one's going away turn 4 and this one's staying turn 5, because that just confuses things, right?
That is how the rule is written, but it's not an easy way to pass the information. So I mean, John and I like it because we play tanky armies that want to sit on objectives. You two hate it because you play squishy armies that want to be away from objectives. All is good in life. Purge the foe. This is my favorite. This is again on that side of the screen. The ones that you don't want to see. I believe it's exactly the same. Kill one, kill more. Hold one, kill more.
There's
No,
no
more
kill more
Turn 1.
Okay,
So
that's
you
fine.
can't get the 8 when you accidentally bounce off something.
Yeah, that's how I usually lost that game, was accidentally going for a kill and then giving up a kill more. So, yeah, that's probably good. I'm in favour of that.
Yeah, it's a quality of life change, which shows they're paying attention to people's complaints.
Yeah, absolutely. They haven't brought back the 9th edition yet, so they're not listening to my complaints. But
They've just brought back
yells
one
at
dead
cloud.
game for you. What? They can't do 2.
Hey, very good, very good. It's all right. They're doing a second one. AOS is coming back. Whoa. Burden of Trust, the next primary mission. So this is end of the command phase. Players whose turn it is scores 4 VP for each objective marker they control not within the deployment zone, and then you select a unit to guard it. And then at the end of the player's turn, you get 2 points that are guarding. So you get, I believe, victory points at the start and end of your turn. Can someone just clarify that?
At the end of your opponent's turn, you'll be So you.
End of your opponent's turn.
It's like the old defend. So you get.
Yeah.
You get points at the end of your opponent's turn. So if you hold it, you get bonus 2. It took me about 20 times reading this card to understand what guarding meant. I thought your opponent got points at first for stealing your guarded one, but no.
I thought you only got extra points if you're playing Astra Militarum, but I don't think that's right.
So the way I read this would be that you have a hidden lone op on an objective guarding it, and then the other stuff in the way to stop them jumping on it, and then you score it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So just to clarify, because we kind of mumbled around that a little bit. Sorry,
Yeah.
I mumbled around it. So in your command phase, as normal timing, you get 4 VP for each objective you hold, and at the end of your opponent's turn, you get 2 for each guarded unit that is holding an objective. So that means potentially you're getting kind of 6 VP a battle round per objective if you manage to hold on to them. Super win more. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, the classic kind of like ones, I'm thinking the former UKTC, which was the diagonal, where you had your middle-sized L over your natural expansion objective. And games could quite often just get into a stalemate where I could see that happening, this kind of thing, where I'm going to guard this one, and, oh, you're guarding that one, are you? Okay, cool. And we'll have a bit of a slap fest in the middle and agree to a 2-point win on whoever drew better cards.
Or it incentivizes us playing aggressively into that 6 point, because losing that once is the exact opposite.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And, if you're playing something like, for example, Wraiths, you feel pretty secure guarding a point. So if you want to dedicate, how much is it for a unit Wraiths now? It's like 250 or 260, still way too cheap. I will dedicate an eighth of my army to just get me 6 victory points a turn, and then send the rest of my army at your 6 points a turn. I feel very good about that. What is interesting is if you put a metal box on an objective with units inside, that actually kind of sucks for guarding. So that might make you change your playstyle a little bit if you're one of the really good armies like Legionnaires in Rhinos.
Yeah. Again, fight first. Amazing for this again. Just seeing those little corners.
Yeah.
And then at the end of their turn, if that unit's battle shocked, they don't do it as well. So there's lots of abilities.
Shadow the Warp OP.
If I, as your opponent, shot you with a whirlwind and made it battle shocked.
Oh, that's true, actually, yeah.
It's funny little things like that I think are going to come up that
all those bad rules that are suddenly actually useful. But again, it's only going to be once per event, so whether they make the cut, it's hard to say. Units that you were going to take anyway, like you might look at running Whirlwinds and Ironstorms still, despite how expensive they are.
I could see this one becoming a one-off.
I think I'd like to see it as a one-off. I think that's pretty cool.
Something like this, or Terraform, something where you get an extra points or something.
Speaking of Terraform, that is the next one. This is an action in the shooting phase. It really is, yeah. One or more units from your army within range of different objective markers, so you can't do multiple on the same, and it ends at your opponent's next turn or the end of the battle. So basically, it's the classic start in your shooting phase, try and hang on. If you're still there at the end of your opponent's turn, the action completes. And if it happens, you gain 4 VP for each objective marker you control in the command phase, but you get 2 VP for each objective marker you've terraformed as well. And I don't believe you still have to hold it. It's just
once it's terraformed, you just keep getting it. So, like having infiltrates sat there going first and just running over to it and terraforming the middle objective. Like just if you can just go there and get that terraformed, and then boom, you're just going to get those 2 points.
What I'm hearing, this is raise banners on crack.
Yes,
the banner never goes away. It's good. Anyone else got any thoughts on this one?
Can you terraform an objective if your opponent's terraformed it?
No, you can't. It's just terraformed once, so this is going to be a very
go first
and aggressive. You cannot
go first, send, terraform, hope you survive, and then I'd probably just naturally win on primary.
Yeah, I don't think this mission you can play passively, which is great, which is what it's been.
You still have to survive a turn for it to complete, so. As long as you're using something resilient, it should be fine. But
that's why you go first as well. Like if you go first, your opponent might struggle to take you off. If you're playing, for example, Dark Eldar, and you putting a boat on a point, you're getting something out, you're doing the objective. Sure, your opponents might be able to advance onto the point, but the chance they can charge you and take you off it is a little more limiting. I think that's a very strong ability.
You still have to control it, so that's the thing that might keep that in check.
Yeah, but it's a real, arrow in the bow for.
I'm just going to battle shock them. That's what I'm going to do.
Just whirlwinds and
Asmodai, I believe.
Orcs don't have battle shock. Moving on. Okay, that was actually the last of the primary.
They do. Big gob, mate.
You've got a big gob. So that's the end of the primary missions, and there's a bit of a mixed bag there. But I think there's some exciting ones. There's some. If they are adopted, right? If they're adopted, there's going to be a bit of a shake-up to the go second every game meta, which I quite like. Because you could theoretically have, a couple of maps that are danger close, so you don't want to go second because you might get charged. A couple of missions where you go, if I go second, I'm in the shit because my opponent's got a real lead on the primary. And suddenly you're just like, oh, I actually want to be playing really aggressively instead of sitting behind my walls for 2 turns, which I think is a much more fun and engaging way to play 40k. Lovely stuff. Let's quickly swizz through the secondaries.
No more priority targets, though.
That is true. No more priority
We'll
targets.
never play priority targets.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
I'd forgotten it existed, so that shows my feelings on the matter.
Well, for the Christmas Invitational, maybe we'll bring back some old missions, right? Right?
We won't remember they exist by the time Christmas comes around. Almost guaranteed. 40k players and object permanence is not a thing that exists in the same world. So, secondary missions. We are at an hour 15, so let's try and blast through these while still saying things that are pithy and relevant. Starting off, we've got Secure No Man's Land. This is end of your turn. You control one objective marker in No Man's Land for 2 VP, or you control 2 and you get 5. This is exactly the same. Cool. Then we've got Containment. This is an action. So you pick one or more of your units that are wholly within 9 of one or more battlefield edges and not within your deployment zone. And you gain 3 points for each battlefield edge contained by your army. You can't pick your own deployment zone, so you can only ever get 3 of the board edges, and it caps at 6. But, potentially if you do actions with 2 units, you get 6 VP. Any thoughts on this one?
Super easy. If you're not there already, you should be.
You can step in from your deployment zone in Dawn of War. You literally just step towards within 9 inches of those 2 sides, and you do 2.
Yeah.
The only thing very risk-free, really.
The only thing that could have an effect on this is how terrain comes out.
Yeah. So that's assuming that you draw it turn 1. If you get it on turn 3 or 4, some armies are going to find this very easy to do, looking at you, Drakari. Some armies are going to struggle looking at me, 18 Wraiths. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely...
Adapt or die, my friend. Adapt or die.
Is this just basically a replacement Investigate Signals?
Yes.
It's much less crap. Yeah. Because Investigate Signals feels really bad the turn after you do it. And you're just like, oh, I've got units on the course.
Or you get it so late and you're a slower army, you're suddenly going, well, my entire build gets punished by this one.
Or you're elite.
That is an absolutely fine card. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I received my first 8 at the weekend. Sam, with his chaos, got 8 points against me with signals. I was like, oh.
If anyone can't hear squeaking out the 4 of us, you're doing something that's causing squeaking, and you should stop. That's me, the sound Nazi. Moving on, we've got Marked for Death. This is when drawn, your opponent must select 3 units from their army on the battlefield. If they've got less than that, they select those, yada yada. If there are no units from their army on the battlefield, discard this card and draw a new secondary mission card, which is wild, because if you've tabled your opponent, it's just you don't get to score it, which I guess is fine. And it is, you get 5 VP if you destroy one or more of the selected units, and you can score it on your opponent's turn as well. If
this card sucks ass because
it's removed.
It's not just killing, it's removed. So against armies like Grey Knights, they just go, oh, what do you want to pick up next turn? Those 3 things. Oh, okay. Well, if you do pick them up, I'm going to get 15 points. Fuck you. And that's all I've got to say on that card.
No. It's capped at 5. It's 1 or more of the selected units. So you don't get.
Okay.
You're handing over a free.
I'm handing over 5 points. Okay. Well, still fuck you. That's
tempting targets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I quite like it for the exact opposite reason of Chris. I know I've got units to do exactly the same going up and down, and opponents can't do anything about it, and it gives them counterplay to a 65-point squad that just.
Why do you want to give them counterplay to your army, Rob? What's wrong with you?
He's good enough that it doesn't matter. It's way more challenging to have counterplay.
I really like the idea
if those ones, I can send my stuff that's definitely going to die forward.
If they've only got 1 pack of Warp Talons coming near me, you pick that and you go, right, they're not getting picked up. Exactly. They're staying where they need to stay, so I can murder them.
It creates tough decisions, which is what these cards
If I didn't play GK, I think this is actually a very interesting card. I think quite a lot of the time it will just be, because obviously the owner of the army gets to pick the unit, so quite often they will just pick the 3 things that you're not coming near, right?
That is true.
So it's the reality is I think a lot of the times it's probably a bad draw.
How sad are you going to be turn 5 when you've got 3 units left and it's like 1 man tactical marine sitting in the open?
Or just 1. There's just 1 unit and you can't get to it because it's on like
you tabled them pretty much.
Yeah, just whirlwinding it, mate.
Yeah. Cool. So then we've got Defend Stronghold. This is the same. You can't score it on turn 1. That's still fine because, whatever. You just get 3 points at the end of your opponent's turn. Storm Hostile Objective. You can't get this on turn 1 as well, which is, I believe, exactly the same as it was. And
you can now redraw it.
Yep.
Just shove it back in.
Yeah, you could just shuffle it back in.
Is that not how it worked before for Storm? I think it was just you couldn't score it on turn 1, right? Or am I making that up? Well, either way, end your turn. If you control one or more objective markers that were controlled by opponents, you get 4 VP. Or if your opponent didn't control any objective markers, so if they're tabled, basically.
Yeah, the redrawing is optional. So beforehand, you were forced to redraw it. Now you can redraw it. So if your opponent has infiltrators on a forward objective that you can actually get to, then you can choose to keep it.
Cool. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And again, if your opponent is tabled or not on objectives, you can still score by taking
Or
objectives.
if you have whirlwinds to kill people on objectives.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Perfect. Thanks for that startling insight. Glad we've got 2 whirlwind apologists now. Moving on to something that might make the skilled players more interested. Wait, hold on. Chris is the one I'm ragging on. Bugger.
So, Rob, what's your thoughts on this one?
Engaged on all fronts. We're looking at you. I think it's the same, isn't it? It's just
No, it's
quite different.
Much easier now.
Well, I was going to say you've just got to be away from the center.
Yeah. And it's only 2 points for the little version, not 3 now as well.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll FAQ that again, and I'll have to write it on the cards, and then they'll, we'll go back and forth on that one.
This is one of the fixes as well. So this is one of the ones you might see. And I know Tyranid players have been very sad, but there's nothing saying that a Spore Mine can't satisfy one of these conditions, if I'm not wrong.
It's a unit from your army.
Yeah, that's true. Because
it's doing an action, right? So you can still take that
it's
as
just
one of
be
them.
there, just exist.
Yeah, okay. No, that's interesting. I do like that. Cool. So then we've got recover assets. This is if your opponent has if you have fewer than 2 units on the battlefield, discard and draw a new one. And it is an action in your shooting phase. 2 or more units from your army, each of them in different areas. So either your deployment, their deployment, no man's land, you've got to complete 2 of the 3. And at the end of your opponent's next turn or the end of the battle, if either 2 or 3 of those units are on the battlefield, they recover assets. So basically, do an action in 1/3 of the deployments of the board, and you get 3 VP if 2 units recovered assets, or 6 if 3 of your units recovered assets. This feels
It's a bit like old Rod R&D. Do you remember that one?
well. Rod would have been ROD originally, retrieve Oculus data, and then they changed it.
Nachmund data.
It was always scramblers, always scramblers.
Yeah,
deploy scrambler.
God, you're so old. Yeah, this is interesting.
This seems very good as a fixed choice. You talk about your wraiths. You exist for 3 points a turn.
For 6, really, because I'm just going to put something annoying in the backfield, which is not hard to do.
You drop a little. What's the little sniper dude with all the
guns?
guns?
Hex Mark Destroyer.
Yeah,
or like 5 battle line immortals with a plasmancer, psychomat. One of the
to survive the turn, though, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. But just
if it's a lone up, it's a challenge, right? As well.
Yeah. Just put enough pressure on the board that they can't go and deal with that small, annoying unit and then laugh maniacally.
Yeah, I think this is one we're going to see a lot.
Yeah. And I think you could probably combine it with, let's say, behind enemy lines to get, let's say, more points for doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, Rob is pretty happy about that combo, I'm sure. So
that 9 inches to travel, though, it's so tough on that one map.
Indeed. So,
you can shuffle that if you draw it as well.
Yes, turn 1 you can shuffle it back in. And the way it happens is end of your turn, if you've got 1 unit from your army in your deployment zone, you get 3 VP. If you've got 2, it's 4. And this excludes aircraft and battle shocked units. And that's fine because you're not running aircrafts and you're never going to be battle shocked. I think this is basically the same. Anything else for that one?
No.
It's not 5 anymore for tactical. So
as was printed in the whatchamacallit, the original, and then they FAQ'd it, so we'll see if that comes back in again. But yes, you are correct. Area denial. This is end of your turn. If you've got 1 or more units from your army within 3 of the center and there are no enemy units within 3, you get 2 VP, and you get the full 5 if 1 or more units from your army are within 3 and there are no enemy units within 6. What does that mean has changed?
So now you're saying I need a unit in the middle to score this card?
Yes, you do.
Thank God they fixed this. And it didn't need fixing, but thank God there's
it definitely
all those people trying to do things that shouldn't be done.
I've had
place.
opponents just be like, "No, you definitely score points for that." I'm like, "Well, I don't
No.
think I do, but sure." Like, if you're vehement that I will have that, like, I'm all right. I'm not going to argue with you, and you can have it if it comes up. I guess that's the game that we're playing. I was never like super convinced either way round, but yes, I'm glad they've tightened it up, and it is, as you say, 2 VP in the center is bad. I think was it 3 before, or is that another one they FAQ'd?
It was 3.
Yeah, I think that might have been.
It's within now. It used to be wholly within, wasn't it? So
Correct.
it's easy to do.
Oh, that's
So
true.
you can just tag in.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
And the enemy ones needed to be holy as well, which was quite annoying. There was times where I was like, I'm not quite there.
But now for the
With your big
Vine
bases.
5 VP, you have to be within 3, and there are no enemy units within 6, so enemy units can tag in to stop the 5 VP.
That's going to be interesting on UKTC, where typically there's a small ruin that you could hide within 6, but not within 9.
That's exactly it.
Sorry,
So
not
your
within
enemy quite often going to have something in that ruin within 6, stopping you from
A whirlwind.
You're not putting a fucking whirlwind there. Oh, right.
The
Cool.
whirlwind will clear that out, though. So
Yeah, well, lovely. Before I lose my rag, on to assassination, which is what I'm very tempted to do right now. So, if you destroy a character, you score 4 VP, and if you... Oh, God. I'm losing my mind. Fixed missions, 4 VP if you kill a character. That's fine. If you're on tactical, if you destroy one or more, you get 5. Or if they've already lost all the characters, you get 5. I think this is exactly the same as it was.
The thing that I thought they would have cleaned up here is the fixed version is character model, and the character unit for tactical. I thought that was something they would clean up here, because there was lots of jank where you could precision out a character from an attached unit in tactical and not get the points.
I don't remember which way it works. I don't think that's how it works, because even though it is part of the unit, it is still a unit on its own.
When it dies, it detaches as a character unit.
Yeah. So, but it means there's a difference on whether you're killing multi-units of characters, like, Seer Councils. I think there might be other ones.
It's things like what's the Accursed Cultist, the guy, the Dark Commune, because that's the character unit,
yeah.
and then you remove the character out, but it's still that unit. You didn't kill the units. That was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are some weird cases. There are some weird cases.
Cool. Then we've got cleanse. Cleanse is just exactly the same, right? 2 or 4 points if you're doing. Oh, okay.
You can't stretch though. That's the big difference.
You could only ever do an action on 1 point before, right?
No.
Really?
One unit could cleanse multiple.
I don't know how I missed that. Cool. So now cleansing is how it should have been in the first place, which is a unit has to cleanse 1 objective. Yeah. Lovely stuff. But otherwise, it's the same. 2 VP for 1, 4 VP for 2 objectives cleansed by your unit. And it is now an action, so again, harder to do. You can't just take big tanky units with pistols, cough, cough, wraiths, take fixed, and then sit in the middle of the board and exist and get points. Establish Locus. This is an action. Again, your shooting phase, 1 unit for your army. End of your turn, if the unit is within your opponent's deployment zone or within 6 of the center, you establish a locus, and you score 2 VP if you get it in the center, or 4 in your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah, hey! So teleport homers hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't. Well, it has. It's changed name. And it's become an action, and it's now harder to do because you can't do it with pistols in combat, or if you fell back or advanced. So it's less.
That's only 2 points as well for the middle, so your opponent can't just.
That's the one that started as 2 and then they FAQ'd to 3.
Yeah, you can't just hammer it for 15 points. No, you only get 10 if you just press the button in the middle.
So this might actually be the biggest change to fix the game. So please don't FAQ it back to 3. Like, for God's sake, don't change it back to 3. Then we've got Sabotage. This is, again, pick a unit in your shooting phase. It's within a terrain feature and not within your opponent, within your deployment zone. It completes at the end of your opponent's next turn or the end of the battle. If completed, commit Sabotage, and you get 3 VP for a sabotage bit of terrain not in your opponent's deployment zone, and 6 if it's within your opponent's deployment zone. So this is just do an action on terrain, get VP if you're in the middle, get more VP if you're in your opponent's deployment zone. That's fine. That's interesting.
It's got to survive.
And it's going to cause some real arguments as to how footprints of terrain are defined, so that's cool.
This is not going to work at local games where you're using hills and things like that.
Yeah.
Ugh, hills?
Like, even the small elves, the mid elves that don't have a footprint,
They have a
solid
1 inch footprint.
That one. So it means you have to be within. So just one toes onto that.
Yep. So it's within, not wholly within.
So
And then
it
you get
makes it a
charged through the
little
wall.
easier.
Yeah.
Yep, cool. So they finally fixed being charged through the wall. Excellent. Glad to see that that's been fixed. Overwhelming force. If you destroy an enemy unit at the start of the turn within range of an objective mark, you get 3 VP. Max of 5. Hasn't changed. Still good. Always happy when I see that one because I get to kill stuff. Speaking of killing stuff, no prisoners. When this card is active, each time an enemy unit is destroyed, score 2 VP up to a max of 5. Hasn't changed. Still happy to see it. I like killing stuff, can you tell? Bring it down. Has changed. Still like to see it. Still get to kill stuff. So now, if there are no enemy monsters or vehicles on the battlefield, you can discard it and draw a new one. Not shuffle it back in. You can
Finally.
discard it, which is very, very
So
nice.
good.
It felt so bad drawing that, and your opponent's like, I'm playing as like full infantry skew, which is like, I appreciate that list building should be rewarded if you can, get around the rules of the game in a way that like 8th edition ITC was. I really like that angle of it, but it also felt awful to play. The way that it works now is you get 2 VP if you destroy an enemy monster or vehicle. If they are
Unit.
Oh, wow. Okay, I missed that wording. So, enemy monster or vehicle unit. My echo in the background there popping off. 2 VP for the unit. If the total wounds characteristic of the models in that unit was 15 plus, you get 2 VP additionally. And if it's 20 plus, you get an extra 2. So if you kill a knight, you get 6. If you kill something that's between 15 and 20, which I'm sure exists, but I couldn't tell you what it is, you get 4. For everything else, you get 2.
Crisis Brick's got around that sort of range.
Yeah, so I was thinking individual models, but you're 100% right.
So Crisis Brick, if you take 2 drones, are they 14 wounds? So instead of giving up 6, it gives up 2 now.
Yeah,
Such
and
a huge difference. Yeah,
you're capped at taking 3 shield drones for 3 models. So why not just drop 1 and to avoid giving your opponent extra VP? That's a really smart change. Yeah.
Chaos Knight now when you give up 2.
Yeah.
There is a big change to tactical here, though. It's not capped.
It's not capped yet, so.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you could score lots and lots of points one turn, and you're not capped to that 8 anymore.
Yeah. That's a good one to draw. If you can cheat, then you're in a real good position. So this is going to be a favourite of some of the top players at events across the country and thus the world, calling you out. You're all scum. Moving on to extend battle lines. It's nice being semi-retired. I just don't care anymore.
can't say that.
I do and will continue to say it. They're not all scum, just 80% of them. Extend battle lines. At the end of your turn, you control 1 or more objective markers within your deployment zone and 1 or more objective markers within no man's land. You get 5 VP, and if you've only got 1 unit on the battlefield and it controls something in the middle of the board, you get 2 VP. Same as it was before. Yep. Still super jazzed to see that one every time.
Yeah, every time you're like, sick, 5 points.
Oh, God, I'm so happy to get that. Get it turn 1 alongside,
yes.
Yeah, oh God, I'm so pleased about this. Cull the Horde. Now, I am glad to see that they've added something in the realm of old no prisoners. That is nice. So if there are no enemy units on the battlefield that satisfy these conditions, you redraw it. And when an enemy infantry unit is destroyed, if one or more of the satisfying conditions are satisfied, you score 5 VP. So if it was a 20 plus starting strength unit, so if it's got 20 models or more, and this doesn't count characters, if the total of the wounds characteristics is 25 plus at starting strength, so either of those. So if it's either 25 wounds or 20 plus models, then you get points for it. What's really interesting is 6 wraiths is only 24 wounds, so that kind of feels like it probably should have been a little bit higher.
Infantry locked anyway.
But wraiths have
gain infantry.
They gain infantry.
They gain infantry.
Yeah.
So what's the situation on taking under strength units? So like with your orc boys, when you're on the app and you're tapping up to adding models and you get to 20, because once you hit 11, you're paying for the 20. But is there a rule that you can't take 12 or up to 19?
What you can do is take 3 units, take a 20 and 2 19s, so they can't discard this card.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But if any of them are led by a war boss, the wound characteristic...
No, because it ignores characters.
Counted.
Oh, no. Okay.
So does that mean that everyone's just going to be like...
No, I don't think you play around this card, because it's like one of 16?
It's fixed.
18.
Oh, it's fixed, is
6
it?
cards. What they
Okay.
could do, we're going to get a new FAQ, a whole heap of rules. They could just say you can't take under strength units.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a rare rule or
It was
anything
in
about it, but I was just like, so you could just take 19 boys or one less than whatever gargoyles, 19 gargoyles, like whatever.
Yeah, definitely can.
Stuff in a drop pod so you can actually put a character in.
Yeah.
It's so funny if they fix this secondary by saying you can't take under strength unit, and all of those like 2 and 3 players who are there for a good time, who are putting their characters in drop pods, it's just like, but my thing, it doesn't work anymore. And you're like, I'm so sorry, you were having the best time, and it sucks for you.
My Impulsor.
It means my Impulsor can't have full Blade Guard with the Ancient attached. I have to.
That's points for Whirlwinds, to be fair. So,
Clement does point out that you lose putting 2 attached characters into Orc Boys if you don't go double up.
Which
That's
is
probably
huge.
Okay.
Is it?
Is
Do you
it?
just
It's
you
custom
just
to hit.
points.
yeah, sure.
Same
But like,
boys,
if you take 6 units, you just put your 6 characters across the 6 units.
It depends if you want them to jump as well as the Feel No Pain, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot that there are more than 6 characters you might want to fit in a list. Like, I think it's a very good point. It is you lose something.
It's a balancing act, though. So if it becomes let's face it, we've lost so much kind of ability to do fun things with our list building because we have to have regimented size units, and we're not paying for the points anymore. So at least maybe it gives a little something for people to consider. At
I
least.
guess the question is, if you have a 20 model unit, do you have to deploy all 20, or can you just okay? Rob's nodding his head. Does that mean that you have to deploy all 20, or is that just a rule interaction that maybe we need to have clarified?
In your list, you have to say 19. That's the starting strength. If your list has 20, that's the starting strength, even if you forget to put someone down.
Cool. All right.
Going back to characters, though, I just thought of something for Assassinate. You do not want to have 5 characters plus that are going to die on your list, because secondaries are hard to score now, or harder. You don't want to give someone an auto 20.
True.
I think it's going to be these super elite 7, 8 character lists. Just going to drown in points and lose on secondaries, I think. Tangent, sorry.
No, it's interesting. I think that's a very
It
fair
changes
point.
how things like Green Tide works in the same respect, right? Because if they can chew through it quick enough, they're just killing characters.
It'll bring GSD down a peg with their codex drop that's OP as well.
I don't know if it does change Green Tide, just on the basis of if the characters and units die, you probably lose. But if you like get to the point where not enough of them have died, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's one
Interesting.
I'd want to see. I want to see that as a match because that's interesting, I think.
I'll have firm opinions on it in 3 months' time, but it'll probably take that long to actually work it out. So that is all of the secondaries, and that is it, because there's nothing else competitively worth talking about. Oh god, you're going to make me talk about the fucking secret missions.
Shh.
I
The
don't
secrets,
wanna do
whirlwind
this.
missions.
Stop. I'm gonna breathe deeply, and I'm gonna continue on. So we got secret missions. Anyone want to explain how secret missions work? Does anyone care? Because I do not, so someone else can take this. I'll read them out, but someone else explain how they work.
Basically, you at the end of or in turn 3, if you're tied or losing on primary score, you can choose to do a secret mission. If you're in the lead, you do not get to make that choice. Then your normal primary scoring is capped at 20 points, up to 20 points, and then you can score up to 20 points for the secret mission that you have chosen. Your opponent will know that you have chosen a secret mission, but they will not know that you have what one you have chosen until the end of the battle. So that is obviously an interesting guessing game. You've got a situation where obviously gambits were designed to be based around the fact that you're losing, but you could still get that lucky win. Here is a situation more where I think you will see, obviously no one ever took gambits. Here's a situation where maybe you're playing into a board pressure army where you have to chew through and kill them quickly. And actually they're designed to just stop your primary scoring and mean you can't ever score many. And actually now this is something where, you'll score your low primary early on, but then you're going to go for the secret mission. And realistically, there's one that most people are going to be taking. But then you can get that, and then you can catch up by scoring your normal primary up to 20 through your normal holding of objectives.
So here's the main reason that I'm upset about this, and it counteracts something that you said.
Okay.
You don't actually have to tell your opponent that you've done it. It doesn't say, reveal to your opponent you've done this. The specific wording is, at the end of the third battle round, you can choose to undertake a secret mission. If you do, secretly select one card from your secret mission deck and place it to one side face down. It doesn't say, tell your opponent you're doing this.
Oh, look over there. Right, okay,
So, what's going to happen in Belgium in a couple of months' time?
Punch them.
Get coaches on distraction duty. Oh, no, I did have my secret mission selected.
Like, how many times... Well, okay, once. How many times this edition has there been, a bit of kerfuffle because, there was, a card's been found. Did my opponent hide it? And now it's just going to be like, oh, yeah, no, there's my secret mission. I did it. It says secretly do it.
No, my water bottle was over it the whole time. Yeah.
So, I have issues with this. I'm sure...
There'll be clarification.
I'm sure that WTC will clarify that it has to be done correctly. I have faith in WTC to do that. I think UKTC will probably also do that. I do not think Games Workshop, with any sense of urgency, will clarify, because it's one of those rules that they will be like, of course you reveal it. Well, no one's going to actually do that, completely ignoring the fact that people play these games in a way that is not the way they design them to be played. Competitive play does not line up with the spirit of how Games Workshop intend the game to be played, and that's just, the reality of competitive play, and it's fine. But you have to be tight on these sorts of things, and you've just literally told a player, be secret about something. Like, anyone who is getting an extra couple of inches of movement on a charge might go, oh, well, I can just, put this down here. And if my opponent doesn't notice, then I got more primary. I'm just going to keep that primary. I don't like it. It needs fixing.
I feel like this would be okay if there was a Proceeders plan card like we had. So you both go, end of turn 3, you all go, okay, here's my card. You put it in the middle.
You've gone mute, mate.
You've muted yourself.
Oh, yeah, you put it in the middle.
Very secret.
Both of your cards, very secret, on point. Put something on top of it, and at the end of the game you flip it and say, this is what we're doing. You keep track of your primary to try and play the bait. And then you go, haha, I've stolen your objective.
Yeah. All right.
Unfortunately, Games Workshop have written rules that are to do things in secret before, so I feel it's entirely their intent, because there was spend a CP to keep your secondary secret.
I disagree, because there was one in 9th edition as well, across multiple armies. But the reason I disagree is you had to declare that you were doing it because you were making a game action. You were spending a CP to say, I'm keeping this.
Yeah. There was some signposting at least there.
Yeah, I think they've just not considered the wording on it, the verbiage, which is, I'm not going to lambast them for making a mistake, but please fix it.
Are we going to see a few red cards with people just trying to take the piss and then it just vanish?
I think we should see more red cards in general, but let's just... so let's just quickly have a look at the missions. So, reminder, you pick these on turn 3. You may or may not have to reveal that you've done one. We'll see. You're capped at 40 primary instead of 50, 20 from the objective, and 20 from the card that you may or may not score, or may or may not reveal. At the end of the battle, if your warlord is within range of one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone that you control, 20 VP. This is the easy one to get. Anything else to add to it?
You have to control it. That's the only saving grace. So you can't just suddenly have a 3-inch deep strike Necron character on a 25 base drop on an objective and score 20 VP. You have to your opponent has counterplay, so they can just ring an objective.
Whaley quite like it.
Yeah. He's got the bad beats. He's no longer able to advance into action, so he needs something to make him good.
He's only OC1.
It depends on the context of the game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think the armies that are able to pull this off will also not have too much issue with controlling it at the end of the game.
Probably winning anyway.
Yeah. Or not necessarily winning, but if you're able to get your warlord to the back objective, you're probably also able to get some warp spiders there to do some shenanigans and clear off points or something like that. I don't think it's going to be an issue for those sorts of armies.
I guess it comes back as well to a warlord that's attached to a battle line unit. They're really pushing that way, because then you've got the high OC warlord effectively.
It's the first time there's been a rule where I've gone, I have some agency for my warlords specifically to be doing something, which is
The
quite
Warlords
different.
haven't had any, apart
from being,
fight them
like,
against
knights,
knights.
yeah.
John,
there's-
John,
there's-
you can get plus. You can get +1 leadership.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
There's
right.
knights. There's also one of the orc detachments, which is one of the bad ones, which cares about your opponent's warlord. But
Yeah,
there's very
the
few rules that
cunt.
matter.
Yeah.
That's not what it's called, and I didn't say that. And you've got no evidence of that because I made
What did you
you.
say, Scrivo?
The big hunt.
Oh,
I'm playing
Oh.
against it on Friday. It's going to be
Okay.
quick.
I thought you went Australian for a second then.
He did. If you haven't seen that, I did make Scrivo do some editing because I thought it was funny, and
It's still not.
it's hilarious to me. Cool. So moving on, that was the first of them. That's the one that you're going to care about. Second, we've got Shatter Cohesion. If there are no units from your opponent's army on the battlefield, or every unit from your opponent's army is on the battlefield is either battle shot below half strength or more than 3 inches away from all objective markers. If these are satisfied, you're winning the game on primary.
Yeah, you're not going to choose this one.
Yeah, this is bad and not good, and you should feel bad for writing this rule. I don't mean that. I'm sorry. The more I understand how underfunded, like under-resourced the rules writers are, the worse I feel about ragging on their rules. But it's a bad one. Send it back. Then we've got Unbroken Wall. You control 3 or more objective markers that are not within your deployment zone at the end of the battle.
Priority targets.
If
Like,
you
how
go
often-
Second, if
Yeah.
you go second, just go on to 3 objectives, and most of them are 5 objectives. Hidden Supplies has got 4 across the middle. Right, going second, that's the one you're just always going to choose, surely.
See, I feel like if you're doing that and you're going second, you're just getting loads of primary points from it anyway, so you're probably better off just not going for it. Because, like,
It can change things.
if you can get on 3,
Well, it
you're
depends.
probably getting...
You're
like,
only choosing this if you're behind anyway, right?
Yeah.
sure, but, like, if you're getting on 3, you're probably getting, like, realistically 10 points from that, so could you probably have got more? I don't know. I don't like it on that basis.
If you come around with this with Purge, you could just go, cool, I just sit back for 2 turns and just don't interact with you at all.
Or the war turn, like go, oh, you want a war? I'm just gonna stay
No,
back.
I disagree, because you still need to get that 20 in the first half of the game, because you're not capped at 40. You're not capped at, like, getting 40. You just can't get any more primary after turn 3, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the card is capped, not your primary before the card. So you can still score 50 if you can score 50 in 3 turns somehow, or 30 in 3 turns somehow.
Well, you could score...
don't think that's true. You can only
No, it's capped at it's 20.
It's capped
So
at
you-
40 overall, yeah.
I thought it was the card was.
And you also
capped.
can't score any more primary after you've selected the card, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah,
what you
so
do
I
is
don't think that works.
you burn an objective in Scorched Earth and hold minimum amount of objectives, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You kind of half-arse it.
But
Or
then
if
you're
it's
getting
gone
more
wrong.
primary from burning the objective. I genuinely don't think this is anywhere near as good as people seem to be expecting it to be. Not targeting you, Chris. I know people have been...
I think it's great.
Clemens just said in the chat that you still score primaries, but you're just capped at 20. So
Okay.
Yeah, it just
if you've had 2 bad turns where you've been zeroed, it could be correctional in that respect.
Yeah, maybe. But you have to call your shot on turn 3. So, yeah, whatever. I won't be taking it. Maybe there was in some of my games it would have made sense, but I'm just going to play them and, try and smash primary anyway. Then we've got War of Attrition, which is the last one, thank God. End of battle, if you've got 1 or more battle line units from your army within your opponent's deployment zone and your opponent has no battle loin on the battlefield, or they are all within your opponent's deployment zone. So if every bit of battle line that they own is in their deployment zone and yours is in theirs as well, you get points. This is weird.
Chaos
Some
Knights
armies-
love this.
there are some armies and some matchups, especially if your opponent doesn't have battle line or not many, you've killed them.
Yeah, I actually think this might be the easiest one to achieve, assuming that you're not
It's
tabled.
situationally the best one.
Yeah.
And it also means that this card means every army has to have at least 1 battle line unit in it if they want to deny it.
Yeah, even if it's just your back holding objectives with it just being kind of defensive and cagey with it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So those were the secret missions. Do we have any thoughts on those other than my rant about how people are just going to be scum?
They at least seem playable. Whilst,
Yeah,
like,
we
I'm
all
a
have
little
to
bit
now
more excited.
contemplate it. No, at no point ever was I like, would you like to gambit now? Like that.
Every game, I like to say it.
Whereas,
We had a 6++ hero on the weekend, Mr. Doddy. Jack, he completed a gambit round 3.
Didn't he still lose the game?
Yeah, but
Yeah. He's not a hero then. He's a Muppet. And I also heard that he had another competitive army he could have brought to bloody teams. Someone let slip to me that he was saying that, there was another one I should have told Ed about, but I don't know what it was. I didn't hear the full story.
GSC.
Oh, no, I don't want to play in GSC. That's very not his play style. That's all right. I'll let him off on that one. Cool. All right, that's the end. Are we thinking that maybe we leave the
questions? There's only like 3, so we'll just save them.
There is one that I'm going to quickly address just because it's old world specific, and well, just on the off chance that I'm not on the next one, I don't want to leave it so it doesn't get picked up. It's just Athai says, what sort of power level do you think the average tournament list in the old world is from a range of 1 to 10, when 10 is the best you can bring? I will look at doing a full episode of Close Order with Lewis on this, probably next week. Not next week, the week after. But it's lower than 40k. It's partially because people haven't discovered all the combos, but also people are more resistant to being beardy or, playing the best thing that you can. So I've had some interesting discussions, not arguments, discussions with good players, like, people who have like channels who are just, put out competitive content, who are just like, I don't want to do as high level competitive stuff, which is fine. And that's, that is what it is. There is always going to be a top end, which might just mean that if you want to play at that high level, that maybe you are more verging into international play than just sort of like general GT play, which is okay. But we'll do a full in-depth answer of that in a couple of weeks' time. Cool. Thank you for watching. This has been a little bit of talking about the Nexus missions, a lot of ranting, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we didn't do too much man reads from book. Goodbye.